I did some research with Trish Jackman on flow and clutch performance. So this idea that, things become effortless. Simply, there's a link with automaticity and flow. But actually in the high level performers who are pushing themselves to maximum effort over a duration of, say, I know, a 10K or a half marathon, there's a lot of mental effort that they're putting in, and flow rarely happens because of that continuous they are pushing to the very line of their physical capabilities and trying to keep that balance to not explode, not hit the wall, and just stay under that kind of exhaustion line.
Yeah, I've had this conversation with a lot of people that probably misinterpret the flow experience as an elite performer. People always talk chasing it. It is a high that you want to chase, right? It's something that you do want, and I've experienced it, and I've had it where your effort is effortless, and it's a great place to be. But if I was to put a number on it, I would probably say 5% of my games would be in, and I think that's generous. I would say 5% of my games, 5% of my days, and even in those games, you're only talking about certain moments. It's never a flow experience from ball one. It's never a flow experience from kickoff. It's probably a moment within it that you get it. And I think people chase that thinking every moment has to be a flow experience. And if it's not, it's subpar. It never hits the mark. It's not the level of performance I want, and that must mean that I've done badly, and I'll internalize that, like, I didn't get flow, and now for my performance is bad. I'm bad. It's not good enough, and it's important to recognize that those moments are just so fleeting.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And Trish Jackman actually did a great chapter for us in the previous sport coaching book about flow. And just from the small amount of research that I've done with Trish, and she's educated me a lot on flow and clutch. I think clutch is probably the more important element for us to think about when we're like with performers, and especially elite performers as well. So clutch is our ability to engage, coping mechanisms, like to manage difficult situations and to maintain high level performance when things are also like things are getting tough, and things are probably quite challenging for us most of the time in a high stakes competition, for example. So rather than us thinking, right, how can we create these flow of environments that where we don't think about things, I think as coaches or psychologists, we need to be thinking, how can we train our athletes to consciously be able to focus, to engage in coping mechanisms and strategies to be able to perform well, like under pressure.
Yeah, this is actually something I've been thinking about a little bit recently, is and really putting over to athletes I've spoken with and worked with, is that how much of your training is based towards when things aren't going your way, when you don't feel great, when you feel those nerves or you feel the physical and somatic signals that are just not favorable for you. And I don't know what you think about this and how this lands for you, but I actually think this is a broadened epidemic in itself from society and the ease of life that we live in, where the fact that I can flick on Amazon right now and get something delivered to me probably later on this afternoon, right? And the fact that everything is much more comfortable, it's a much more comfortable experience. Therefore, when training, it's needs to be comfortable. And whether there's a higher level of acceptance or want to have that level of comfortability in training, and then only to find when you get into a high pressure situation, a really high performing moment, a clutch moment that is uncomfortable, that is nasty, is chaotic, you have nothing there to deal with it because you've not been willing to throw yourself into it.
Yeah, like we're going off on a tangent, but I love it. I think you're right. So like I think it's Erickson talked about this idea of deliberate practice, and again, it's effortful, it's difficult, it's not always fun. It can be quite boring, and I think When you were talking then, I was thinking about myself. So I do triathlon. I love to cycle and I hate to swim. So guess which sport gets the most of my time and guess which gets the least of my time. Because I'm more likely to feel some of the characteristics of flow on the bike. I've never experienced flow in a swim because I'm
That it's very hard to feel that in swimming. I don't know many. I don't even know if I've felt flow in the pool. It's constant, just it's just drowning
yeah.
with effort.
Yeah, so you're right. So as I think as humans, we want the easiest life as possible, but that's not life as a high performance athlete. And yeah, like because everything is so accessible, like I always think about football. And I might be speaking unfairly now, but I've seen and worked in a couple of football environments where a football player doesn't, and I'm speaking about the men's game because I've got less experience in the women's, but a footballer won't bring their own like uh, nutrition because it's the water's brought for them, the food's brought for them, everything's organized for them. So then what happens when, I don't know, the chef can't come in or the right nutrition isn't there on the day, things go wrong, right? Because they're not used to being out of routine. So I think we see that more and more in some high performance environments. Whereas I see like triathlon, for example, and don't get as much funding, don't get as much support. So I see a lot of resilience in them type of athletes because they have to be responsible for themselves, their own tire pressure. I've worked with an Olympic medalist who does all of her own mechanics, her own tire pressure. She's fiddling with her chain. She's her own nutritionist. She's her own physiotherapist. And I see way more resilience in someone like that.
If you enjoyed that clip with Amy and you want to enjoy it even more, then YouTube has selected the best video for you to view, and that is going to be around here. Off you go.